So in deference to the frail aircraft that the RAF, who now controls the fleet air arm considered suitable for naval operation, the restraining wires were removed.
In a high-performance aeroplane, but possibly slightly obsolete, like a Wildcat or a Hellcat, but most of us made it okay. We got down all right.
But some got down all wrong. And others were lucky. Incredibly lucky. And a few had no luck at all. The deck crews of training carriers became great judges of a landing approach. At extreme range at dusk. On the way home, aircraft began to ditch as they ran out of fuel. The strong structure and empty fuel tanks kept this Hellcat afloat long enough for the pilot to get clear. He was one of many that had splashed down on the long 300-mile haul against headwinds back to the carriers. By the time surviving aircraft reached the carriers, it was dark. Against all wartime regulations, the ship's lights were switched on to guide the pilots down for their first deck landing in the dark. Too few, if any, of the pilots had been trained in night flying. Any misjudgment, and with empty tanks, they had to ditch. Some just could not quite make the flight. Frantic radio calls gave the pilots permission to land on the first ship they saw. One if deck accidents were common. In all, the operation cost 104 aircraft. And next day, widespread searches were made along the track and many of the aircrew were rescued. But 16 pilots and 33 crewmen were never seen again. October 1944 and the last big battle, the Battle of Leyte Gulf. In 3 days of fighting, the Japanese Navy simply ceased to exist. As 1,050 planes, 2 battleships, 4 carriers, and scores of smaller ships slipped into the blue waters of the Pacific off Cape Engano. And after the battle, back to the American carriers came damaged planes flown by their wounded and exhausted pilots.
You would float over the arrestor gear, which stopped the aircraft on the flight deck, and you would crash into the barriers, which many people did.
Here, one of our aircraft, an Avenger, returns with a missing left wheel and makes a safe landing. The plane handling crews take every precaution. Another pilot brings down a damaged Helldiver, which is minus its tail hook. As the plane can't be stopped by the arresting gear, the pilot must rely on his brakes. This ship is trailing smoke as the pilot covers the last yards to the carrier. losses of enemy aircraft in this engagement are reported to total more than 150.